Tomorrow was supposed to be my wedding day. I kept staring at the vows I'd written, pages covered in messy ink, every word trembling with love. My hand smelled faintly of the roses I'd ordered for Emily's bouquet. Everything felt right. Too right, Mark called from the living room. "You done practicing your vows, Romeo?" "Almost," I said, forcing a laugh. "Just making sure they sound perfect." He walked in, holding 2 beers. "Man, you're glowing like you already married her." "I guess I'm just lucky," I said quietly. "After everything, she stayed." He raised a brow. "You sure about that? She's been acting kind of strange lately." "Strange?" I looked up. "What do you mean?" He hesitated. "Forget it. You'll see her tomorrow. Don't overthink it," but I did. After he left, the silence in my apartment grew heavy. Something inside me twisted, a quiet fear that I tried to ignore. I grabbed my jacket and keys. Emily said she'd be at the hotel with the bridesmaids. Maybe I could surprise her. The hotel lobby smelled like vanilla candles and expensive perfume. The receptionist smiled. "Mr. Reed, congratulations in advance." "Thanks," I muttered, forcing a grin. "Room 812? "Yes, Miss Carter just checked in." My heart thudded faster. I rode the elevator up, smiling like an idiot. I imagined Emily's face when she saw me walk in with her favorite coffee. She always said she loved surprises. The door to her suite was half open. I knocked softly. "Em?" "It's me." No answer. I stepped inside. The air smelled different, sweat, not perfume. The curtain was half drawn, and the sound of muffled whispers came from the bedroom. I froze. Then I heard his voice. Ryan's voice. "Em, he doesn't have to know. After tomorrow, it'll all be fine." My stomach turned. I walked forward before my brain could stop me. The door creaked open. Emily gasped first. She was wearing the white robe I bought her. Ryan sat beside her, shirt half buttoned, guilt painted across his face. "Ethan," I dropped the coffee cup. It hit the floor, splattering brown across the carpet. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. What is this?" Ryan stood up. "It's not what it looks like." "Don't you dare say that," I snapped. "You're in her room, she's in your arms, and you're telling me it's not what it looks like?" Emily reached for me, eyes wide. "Ethan, please, let me explain." "Explain." My voice cracked. "Explain how the woman I was supposed to marry tomorrow is sleeping with my brother." Ryan stepped forward. "I didn't plan this, okay? It just happened," I laughed bitterly. "You didn't plan it? You're kissing my fiancé in a hotel room I paid for the night before my wedding." Emily started crying. "Ethan, I didn't mean to hurt you." "Didn't mean to?" I cut her off. "You had months to not mean to," she sobbed. "I thought I loved you, but..." I held up my hand. "Don't say it." Ryan clenched his jaw. "You were never around, Ethan. You were always working, chasing something bigger. She needed someone who was there." I stared at him. "So you became that someone?" He looked away. "I didn't steal her. You lost her." The words hit harder than any punch. For a moment, I felt my knees weaken. Emily whispered, "I'm sorry." "No," I said softly. "You're not. You just regret getting caught." I turned toward the door, but Ryan grabbed my arm. "Don't walk away like you're the victim here!" I jerked free. "You slept with my fiancé. What do you expect me to do? Thank you for saving her from boredom." He shouted, "You think you're perfect, but you've always made me feel small." "This time I won." My vision blurred. "You won?" I laughed quietly. "Then congratulations, brother. You can have her." I walked out. My hands shook as I hit the elevator button. The doors slid open, but before I could step inside, my mother's voice echoed from behind. "Ethan!" She rushed toward me, eyes red. "Please, just listen." "Ryan told me..." "Don't," I said sharply. "Not now," she grabbed my sleeve. "He made a mistake. You both can fix this." "Fix what, Mom? A broken wedding? A broken family?" Tears ran down her cheeks. "He's your brother, and she was supposed to be my wife." Her hand fell away. The elevator doors closed between us. When I reached the parking lot, the night air felt colder than I remembered. My phone buzzed, Emily calling. I threw it onto the passenger seat. It kept ringing until it stopped. I sat there for a long time, staring at the steering wheel. My hands looked foreign, trembling like they didn't belong to me. I whispered, "Why him?" The silence answered back. At some point, Mark called. I ignored it. The city outside my windshield blurred into streaks of light. I started the car, then stopped. I didn't know where to go. Home didn't feel like home anymore. Tomorrow was supposed to be my wedding day, but tonight felt like a funeral. I drove aimlessly for hours until I found myself parked by the ocean. The water shimmered under the streetlights, calm, endless, indifferent. I got out and walked to the edge. The wind hit my face hard, stinging my eyes. I thought about the ring sitting in my pocket. I pulled it out and stared at it. Silver, simple, beautiful, now meaningless. I whispered to the night, "You win, Ryan." Then I threw the ring into the dark water and watched it disappear. The sound of the waves drowned everything, the betrayal, the noise, the memories. I stood there until the world went quiet. When I finally turned back toward my car, I felt hollow. Not angry, not even sad, just empty. I drove home in silence, ignoring the calls, the messages, the apologies. I locked the door, closed the curtains, and sat on the floor. Tomorrow, the church would be filled with flowers, but there would be no groom. I whispered into the dark, "Goodbye, Emily, goodbye, Ryan." And that night, I walked away from everyone I loved without looking back. I didn't sleep for days after that night. The walls of my apartment felt too close, too quiet, too judgmental. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing, Emily, Ryan, my mother, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. Every message felt like poison. By the third day, I walked into the office pretending I was fine. Mr. Grant looked up from his desk, unimpressed. "You look terrible, Ethan." "I'm okay," I lied. "You're not. You've missed 2 deadlines. Clients are complaining. I'll fix it. I just need time," he sighed. "You used to be reliable. Now you're a distraction. Maybe you should take a break." "A break?" I asked. "Or are you firing me?" He looked at me coldly. "Let's call it both." I laughed without meaning to. "You're serious." "I can't run a company around your heartbreak," he said. "I'm sorry." I wanted to shout, but I couldn't. I just nodded and walked out, box in hand, eyes fixed on the floor. People whispered as I passed. I didn't care. Outside, the wind felt colder than usual. I sat on the curb, staring at the traffic. Everything kept moving except me. When I got home, Mark was waiting at my door, holding 2 beers and a bag of chips. "You look like hell." "Thanks," I muttered, unlocking the door. He followed me in. "So you're unemployed, heartbroken, and probably dehydrated. Sounds like a new record. Not funny, Mark." He handed me a beer. "Come on, man. Drink something. You can't just rot here." "I'm not rotting," I said, collapsing on the couch. "I'm processing." He sat beside me. "Processing what? That your brother's a jerk or that your fiancé's worse?" "Both," I said quietly. "Then process faster. You're killing yourself like this." I took a sip of beer and stared at the blank TV screen. "You ever feel like the world just stopped caring?" He sighed. "It's not the world, Ethan. It's just people. People suck sometimes. My mom told me to forgive him." Mark blinked. "What?" "She said he's my brother. That family shouldn't break over one mistake." "One mistake?" Mark's tone sharpened. "He stole your fiancée. She thinks I should move on." He shook his head. "Then move on, sure, but not by forgiving that traitor. Move on by becoming someone they can't touch." I looked at him. "And how do I do that when I can't even get out of bed most days?" He paused. "You start small. One day at a time." I didn't answer. The silence stretched between us. He leaned forward. "You know, Ethan, you've always been the guy who fixes everything for everyone. Maybe it's time you fix yourself." I gave a bitter laugh. "That's the problem. I don't even know where to start." He pointed at the half-empty beer. "Start there. Finish that, take a shower, and eat something that's not air." Despite myself, I smiled. "You sound like my mother." "I sound better," he said, grinning. "She still thinks Ryan deserves a hug." "Yeah," I muttered. "She called again this morning." Said, "Ease your blood, Ethan," as if blood means loyalty. Mark frowned. "Blood doesn't mean anything if it poisons you." We sat in silence again. The city buzzed outside, indifferent. When he finally left, I stared at the engagement ring sitting on the table. I'd kept it in its little velvet box, stupidly hoping it might mean something again. I opened it and whispered, "I bought this because I believed in forever." The ring gleamed under the dim light. Cruelly beautiful. The next week blurred into nothing. Job applications, rejection emails, long walks with no destination. I stopped answering calls altogether. My mother showed up one afternoon, tears in her eyes. "Ethan, please," she said. "Don't hate him." I leaned against the doorframe, exhausted. Mom, he took everything from me. He's still your brother, she whispered. Then maybe I don't need a brother. Her lips trembled. You don't mean that. I do, I said. For the first time, I really do. She left without another word. When the door closed, the silence felt heavier than before. That night, I sold my car. The next morning, I packed 2 bags and moved into a tiny apartment on the edge of the city. The paint peeled from the walls, the faucet leaked, and the neighbors screamed at each other through paper-thin walls. But it was mine. Mark visited again a few days later. You really downgraded, huh? It's peaceful, I said. It's depressing. Same thing, I muttered. He chuckled, then grew serious. You gonna be okay here? I don't know, I admitted. But at least I'm not surrounded by ghosts, he nodded slowly. You're stronger than you think, man. Doesn't feel like it. It never does when you're still bleeding. For the first time in days, I looked him in the eye. What if I never stop bleeding? Then you learn to live with the scars, he said. His words stayed with me long after he left. I sat by the window that night, listening to rain tapping the glass. The city lights shimmered like distant stars I could never reach. I thought about the man I used to be, hopeful, stupidly trusting, and felt something die quietly inside me. When I couldn't sleep, I opened the drawer where I'd kept the ring. I turned it over in my hand, watching how it caught the light. This isn't love, I whispered. It's blindness. The words sounded final. I dropped the ring back into the drawer and shut it. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky, shaking the building. I whispered into the darkness. If this is what it means to lose everything, then maybe losing is how I start over. No one answered. But for the first time, the silence didn't hurt as much. My laptop screen glowed in the dark like a cruel reminder of how far I'd fallen. I'd applied to 20 jobs that week, no replies. The rejection emails piled up like ashes, cold and repetitive. I leaned back in my chair and whispered, maybe Mom was right. Maybe I really am finished. The cursor blinked at me like it was mocking me. Then, almost out of boredom, I clicked on a freelance site. There was a small listing. Need quick app fix. Low pay. I laughed under my breath. Low pay sounds perfect for a failure like me. I clicked accept. Hours passed as I worked through the night. My eyes burned, but the code started to make sense, like muscle memory coming alive. When I finally hit submit, it was almost sunrise. I hadn't felt that kind of focus in months. 2 days later, I got a message. Project approved. Great work, I stared at it, blinking. Someone appreciated my work. Someone I didn't even know. Mark called just as I finished reading. Yo, man, still alive? Barely, I said. But I just got paid for something. For what? Fixing an app, he laughed. You back to coding again? Didn't think I'd see that day. I didn't think I'd want to, I said. But it felt good, he paused. Then do it again. Maybe I will. And I did. One small project turned into another, then 3 more. They didn't pay much, but each one reminded me that I wasn't useless. Then came a message from a woman named Claire Watson. Your last project impressed me. Are you open to a partnership? I hesitated before replying, partnership? I'm just freelancing from a dying laptop. She wrote back instantly. Maybe that laptop deserves a better story. We met online first, then in person a week later. She was sharp, business casual, confident, eyes that missed nothing. You're Ethan Reed, she said, shaking my hand. I expected someone older. I expected someone less direct, I said. She smiled faintly. You'll get used to it. I've read your code. It's clean, smart, fast. You've got talent, Ethan. You just forgot who you are. Maybe I never knew, I admitted. She leaned forward. Then let's find out together. I'm starting a firm, small but ambitious. I need a partner who understands both failure and potential. You qualify for both, I raised an eyebrow. You're honest. I'll give you that. I don't waste time with lies, she said simply. So what do you say? I thought of Emily's last words to me. You'll never make it. I extended my hand. Let's make something that proves her wrong, she grinned. Now that's the energy I'm looking for. A week later, we registered the business, Nova Tech Solutions. My apartment became our office. Claire brought a second-hand printer and a whiteboard. Mark dropped by holding 2 coffees. So this is the empire? He asked. Not yet, I said. But it will be. Claire looked up from her laptop. Optimism looks good on you, Ethan, Mark smirked. He used to smile like that before life punched him. I'm still healing from that punch, I said. Then heal faster, Claire said without looking up. We all laughed, and for the first time in months, I felt something warm in my chest. Hope, maybe. Days turned into nights of caffeine, code, and chaos. We barely slept. Claire handled clients, Mark handled promotion, and I handled everything else. One evening, as I stared at a crashing line of code, Claire leaned over my shoulder. You're too tense. Take a break, I can't, I said. If I stop, I'll think. About her? She asked quietly. I didn't answer. She sighed. Then think about this instead. How you'll look when you prove her wrong. That made me smile. You really don't pull punches. I don't believe in comforting lies, she said. You need fire, not pity. Later that night, after they both left, I sat alone in the dim light. The sound of my keyboard filled the silence. I could almost hear Emily's voice in the back of my head. You'll never make it, I whispered back. Watch me. By the end of the month, Novatech landed its first official client. A small logistics company needed an inventory app. Claire came running into the apartment waving a signed contract. We did it, she shouted. I blinked. You're serious? Completely, she said, laughing. Pack your ego, Mr. Reed, we're in business. Mark showed up later with pizza and cheap champagne. To the rebirth of a man who was supposed to stay broken, he declared, raising his slice. Cheers to the woman who pushed him to rebuild, I added, nodding toward Claire. She lifted her glass. And cheers to the pain that gave him purpose. We drank, we laughed, and I realized something. I wasn't the same man anymore. After they left, I sat by the window again. The city looked different now, still dark, still loud, but full of possibilities. I opened my laptop, staring at our company logo, simple, blue, and new. Beneath it, I wrote a line of code that printed one phrase on the screen. You made it. I leaned back and smiled. Not yet, I whispered. But I'm getting there. For the first time, I didn't feel broken. I felt alive, and as the sun began to rise outside, painting the sky gold, I realized something else. Pain didn't destroy me. It built me. Every insult, every betrayal, every sleepless night had pushed me to this moment. I closed my laptop and whispered, Emily, you were wrong. The words didn't taste bitter anymore. They tasted like freedom. 5 years. That's how long it took to turn a dying idea into an empire. Novatech wasn't just a company anymore. It was a storm. The same boardrooms that once ignored my emails now called me Mr. Reed, with forced smiles and rehearsed enthusiasm. Claire stood beside me in every meeting, calm, sharp, unshakable. If I was the fire, she was the one who made sure it didn't burn out of control. Another award, another interview, she said one evening, scrolling through her tablet. You're officially a tech celebrity now, I smirked. Celebrity sounds like someone who gets paid to smile. I just get paid to remember who doubted me. She gave me a look. You still think about them? Every day, I said. Not out of hate. Just clarity, she nodded. Then use it. But don't let it use you, I didn't reply. My phone buzzed, an email from a familiar name. Grant Industries seeks acquisition talks with Novatech. My chest tightened. Mr. Grant. The same man who'd fired me when I couldn't focus after Emily. The same man who'd said, distractions have no place here. I read the message twice. They're going bankrupt, I whispered. Claire looked up. The same company that fired you? Yeah, she smiled faintly. Guess karma uses spreadsheets too. I exhaled slowly. Set up a meeting. 2 days later, I walked into the same building I once walked out of in humiliation. Everything looked smaller now. The hallway, the office, even the receptionist who had once avoided meeting my eyes. Mr. Reed, she said nervously. Mr. Grant is expecting you, I smiled politely. I'm sure he is. Claire followed close behind, clipboard in hand, her presence radiating quiet power. As we entered the boardroom, I saw him, Richard Grant, older, heavier, desperation sitting on his shoulders like a second suit. Ethan, he said, forcing a smile. It's been a long time. It has, I said, taking a seat. I believe I was once your employee? He cleared his throat. You were. A promising one. But times were different. People change, I said softly. Yes, he murmured. Some people do. Claire slid the papers across the table. The acquisition terms are simple. Novatech will absorb Grant Industries' assets and debts included. Mr. Grant hesitated. That's generous. It's business, Claire said coolly. I studied his face. You taught me something valuable, Mr. Grant. That emotion ruins performance. I've tried to prove you wrong, but apparently revenge performs even better. He chuckled awkwardly. I suppose this is satisfying for you. It's not, I said honestly. It's necessary. He signed the papers with shaking hands. I watched the pen move, the same way I once watched my termination letter being printed. The sound of the pen scratching paper felt poetic. When he slid the documents back, I stood. Thank you, Mr. Grant. I'll take it from here. He didn't meet my eyes. As we left, Claire whispered, You handled that better than I expected. I'm not that angry kid anymore, I said. I just learned to let silence do the talking. Back at Novatech HQ, a skyline view, glass walls, the hum of progress, Mark was waiting with coffee. So did you burn the old man alive or just roast him gently? Bought him, I said. He whistled. Damn, that's colder than I imagined, Claire smirked. He even smiled while doing it. I don't smile, I said. I remember, Mark chuckled. You remember too much. Maybe, I said, staring out the window. But memory is fuel. The city stretched beneath us, full of light and motion, proof that I had rebuilt my life brick by brick. Every betrayal had become a foundation. That night at the celebration dinner, investors toasted to our success. Cameras flashed, champagne poured, and I smiled for all of them. But deep inside, I thought of the man who once said I was too distracted to lead. When the crowd thinned, Claire approached me. You did it, she said quietly. You've officially rewritten your story, I nodded. Funny thing about revenge, it doesn't scream. It just breathes. She studied me for a moment. Does it feel empty? I thought for a long second. No, just quiet. Good, she said, touching my arm lightly. Now build something louder, something that outlives revenge. Weeks later, the acquisition made headlines. Novatech rescues Grant Industries in record deal. Reporters called it redemption. I called it correction. Mr. Grant sent me a short message. You've done well. I underestimated you. I replied, you built the wall. I just learned to climb it. Claire laughed when she read it. You really have a way with poetic threats. It's not a threat, I said. It's closure, she tilted her head. Closure or victory? Both, business boomed. Our new branches opened in 3 countries. Investors fought for meetings. Yet amid all the success, there was a strange calm, a sense that the storm inside me had finally spent itself. One night, as I sat in my office overlooking the city, Mark came in holding 2 beers. You ever stop working? He asked. Not really, I said. Still trying to earn the peace everyone says comes after success. He sat across from me. You already earned it. You just don't trust it, I smiled faintly. Maybe peace feels too much like silence. I'm not used to that, he raised his bottle. To silence, then. The kind you earned. We clinked bottles. And I looked at the skyline. Claire's voice echoed in my mind from earlier. Build something louder than revenge. Maybe she was right. Maybe success wasn't about proving people wrong anymore. Maybe it was about proving myself right. I opened my laptop. Drafted a message to the team. Next phase, expansion into education tech. Let's create something that changes lives, not just markets. As I hit send, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace that didn't come from victory, but from purpose. I leaned back, exhaled, and whispered, Mr. Grant was right about one thing. People change. A small smile crept across my face. I just changed further than he ever imagined. The city lights blinked below, silent witnesses to my rise, the rise of someone everyone had forgotten, not anymore. The conference room was silent when they walked in. My name was printed in bold on the presentation screen. Ethan Reed, CEO of Novatech Global. Their eyes found it before they found me. Emily froze first. Her fingers tightened around the folder she held, knuckles pale. Then Ryan looked up, his usual cocky smirk dying halfway. Ethan? Emily whispered, her voice cracking like old glass. I leaned back in my chair, keeping my tone even. Mrs. Reed, I said. Welcome to the company, she flinched. You own this? I nodded. And everything under it, including Brightcore Technologies, the firm you both now work for. Ryan's jaw flexed. This isn't funny. Neither was Betrayal, I said. But we all have different senses of humor. Claire, standing beside me, scanned their resumes like this was any other meeting. Mr. and Mrs. Reed will be assisting with the integration reports, she said smoothly. Let's continue. Ryan tried to regain composure. We're here to contribute, Ethan. Whatever happened years ago is the reason you're in this room, I interrupted. Fate's funny that way. Emily's eyes filled with guilt, the kind that shows up late and stays unwanted. We didn't mean to hurt you, I smiled faintly. You just meant to love him instead. She looked down. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. Claire glanced at me, her expression unreadable. When the meeting ended, I gathered my notes slowly. Ryan stood near the door, waiting. Ethan, he said finally, we should talk. I paused. You lost the right to say my name the night you stole my life. He winced. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that, I said quietly. You took what wasn't yours and called it love. You can live with that. I don't need an explanation, he stepped closer. Look, I regret what happened. But we're still brothers. I met his eyes, the same eyes I used to trust. No, Ryan, we're just two people who used to share a last name. I left the room before he could reply. Claire followed me into my office later. You handled that better than expected, I sighed, running a hand through my hair. I'm not sure if that's good or bad. It's restraint, she said. The kind most people don't have when ghosts walk back in. I laughed softly. Ghosts usually haunt you. These ones just ask for performance reviews. She smiled faintly. You don't have to prove anything, Ethan. I'm not proving, I said. I'm reminding. Of what? That I survived them, she nodded slowly. Then make sure survival doesn't turn into obsession. I stared at the city outside my window. I won't, but I also won't pretend they didn't bury me once. Claire hesitated. Do you still love her? I finished. No. I just remember how it felt to be replaced. She crossed her arms. Then remember what came after. You built something bigger. I smiled faintly. And now they work for it. Over the next few weeks, every meeting became an exercise in quiet control. Ryan tried to act confident, talking numbers and plans. But I saw the sweat near his collar every time I looked at him too long. Emily kept her distance, always polite, always trembling slightly when I spoke. Good presentation, I told her one afternoon. Almost makes me forget you once said I'd never make it. Her lips parted. Ethan, relax, I said, cutting her off. It's just feedback. She nodded quickly, retreating. Mark caught me later. Man, you're terrifying, he said, half laughing. You don't even yell, you just exist and people panic. I'm not trying to scare them, I said. Sure, he smirked. But watching your ex and your brother trip over themselves every meeting? That's top-tier revenge, I frowned. It's not revenge, Mark. Then what is it? Reality, I said simply. They made their choices. I'm just letting them see where those choices led. He shrugged. Still feels satisfying. I didn't deny it. One evening, as the office emptied, Emily appeared at my door. Her voice was soft. Can we talk? I gestured toward the chair. You have 5 minutes, she sat down slowly. I know you hate me. I don't, I said. Hatred takes effort. You're not worth that. Her eyes glistened. I was scared back then. You were always working, always dreaming. Ryan was there when I felt alone. So you traded ambition for comfort, I said. And now? Now I see what I lost. Do you? I asked quietly. Or do you just see what I became? She didn't answer. I loved you, I said after a moment. More than I should have. And you used that love as a ladder to climb out of your own insecurity. Tears slid down her face. I didn't mean to destroy you. You didn't, I said. You just taught me what destruction feels like, and how to rebuild from it. She whispered, I'm sorry. I'm not, I replied. Because if it weren't for you, I'd still be small enough to believe people like you define my worth. She looked at me like she didn't recognize the man in front of her. Maybe she didn't. Good night, Emily, I said. When she left, I felt an odd peace. Not satisfaction, not anger, just distance. The next morning, Ryan came by unannounced. You humiliated her, he said. She humiliated herself, I replied. I just let her face it. She's breaking down. So did I said sharply. The night you both made me watch my world collapse. He rubbed his temples. You're not the only one who suffered, I laughed bitterly. You got the girl. I got insomnia. Remind me who suffered more, he glared. I didn't come to fight. Then leave, I said. You work here now. Act like it, he hesitated. I still care about you, Ethan. Care doesn't erase choices, I said quietly. You chose her over blood. I chose to live without either of you. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. For once, Ryan had nothing to say. As he left, Claire stepped inside. You okay? I'm fine, I said. She frowned. You're lying. Maybe, I admitted. But it's a useful lie. She studied me. You're strong, Ethan. Just don't lose the part of you that still feels. I smiled faintly. Feeling got me destroyed once. Logic rebuilt me. Then balance them, she said softly. You can't live your whole life proving ghosts wrong. Who said I'm proving anything? She smiled knowingly. You just like watching them realize what they threw away. I didn't answer, because she was right. That night, alone in my office, I stared at the reflection in the glass. The man staring back wasn't the broken groom from years ago. He was the storm that rose from the wreckage. Welcome to the company, I whispered again, and this time I almost smiled. It started with whispers, small, harmless ones that floated through the hallways like smoke. Ryan's project missed another deadline. Emily's been drinking again. They're not the power couple everyone thought. I didn't start those rumors. I didn't have to. Karma has a way of speaking louder than revenge ever could. Claire walked into my office one afternoon, closing the door behind her. It's getting bad, Ethan. What is? She hesitated. Ryan and Emily, his division's collapsing. She's barely functioning. I leaned back, keeping my voice calm. Then maybe it's time they feel what it's like to lose everything they built on lies. You don't sound happy about it. I'm not, I said. Just finished, she studied me. You really believe that? I do, I lied. The next few weeks were chaos. Meetings, calls, failed reports. Ryan avoided me whenever possible, hiding behind spreadsheets and forced smiles. Emily came in late, eyes red, perfume mixed with alcohol. I didn't intervene. I just watched. During a staff briefing, I caught Ryan's voice crack mid-presentation. We're, confident the projections will stabilize. They didn't. Afterward, Claire murmured, He's drowning. I know, I said quietly. You could throw a rope. I threw one years ago. They used it to hang me, she sighed. Sometimes mercy looks better than victory. Sometimes mercy ruins it. By the end of the month, Ryan's team had lost 2 major clients. Emily's mistakes were piling up. She once sent the wrong proposal to an investor worth millions. That evening, I saw her standing by the elevator, pale and trembling. Ethan, she said softly. I stopped. Emily, can we talk? Please, I almost said no, but something in her eyes, desperation, maybe regret, made me nod. We stepped outside into the cold night air. The city lights painted everything in quiet gold. She hugged herself, shivering. I made a mistake, Ethan. No, I whispered. You made a choice. Her voice broke. I thought I was doing the right thing. Ryan promised me stability. I was tired of struggling. You wanted comfort, I said. You got it, at the cost of a heartbeat. She looked up, eyes wet. I didn't know you'd become this. Neither did I said. Pain builds strange things. I can't sleep anymore, she whispered. Every time I see you in the hallway, I remember what I did. What we did. Then remember, I said. That's your punishment, not me. Tears slipped down her cheeks. Can't you forgive me? I already did, I said softly. That's why I'm not destroying you, she shook her head. You hate me. No, I said. I pity you. That broke her. She covered her face, sobbing quietly. I loved you, Ethan, I really did. Then you should have stayed. Her shoulders shook. He's not the man I thought he was. Neither was I said, walking past her. But I learned. A few days later, HR requested a private meeting with Ryan. Claire handed me the file afterward. He's being let go. I didn't open it. Reason? Project failure, leadership issues, lack of accountability, she said flatly. Corporate language for karma. Who approved it? You did, indirectly, I nodded. Then it's done. When Ryan walked out of the building that afternoon, I watched from my office window. He didn't fight, didn't shout, didn't even look back. His head hung low, hands shoved deep into his pockets. For a second, I almost pitied him. Almost. Mark entered quietly. So it's over. For him, maybe, I said. Mark leaned against the wall. You ever think about how weird this all is? You didn't lift a finger, but everything still burned down. That's the thing about karma, I said. It doesn't need a witness, just time. He nodded. Still, it must feel strange. Watching it happen. It does, I admitted. It feels like watching an old film where you know how it ends, but you still can't look away. Mark gave a short laugh. Man, you've changed. Everyone does, I said quietly. The lucky ones, at least. Later that night, as I packed my briefcase, I saw Emily again. She was sitting alone on the front steps of the building, hair messy, mascara streaked. A half-empty bottle of wine sat beside her. Security's going to ask you to leave, I said. She looked up, eyes distant. Let them. There's nowhere else to go, I sighed. You shouldn't drink here, she laughed bitterly. Where should I then? At the home I can't afford because Ryan's unemployed? Maybe you should focus on fixing what's left, I said. She shook her head. There's nothing left. He blames me. I blame myself. And you just stand there like you're made of stone. I learned to survive without noise, I said. Doesn't it hurt anymore? I hesitated. It used to. Now it just echoes. She took a deep breath. I thought I was marrying strength. Turns out I married a coward. Then maybe you two were perfect for each other, I said softly. She winced, wiping her eyes. You don't mean that, I met her gaze. I do, but I also hope you heal. We all deserve that, even the ones who break others first. She stood, wobbling slightly. You're cruel. No, I said. I'm honest. As I turned to leave, she called after me. Do you ever miss me? I stopped. I miss who I thought you were. She didn't reply. When I reached my car, I looked back once. She was still standing there, a shadow under the neon lights, a ghost of the woman I once planned to marry. At home, I sat in silence. The ring, on the one I never gave her, still rested in a small box on my desk. I picked it up, turned it in my hand, then set it down again. It wasn't a reminder of loss anymore. It was proof of distance. Claire called me a few minutes later. You all right? I am, I said. You sound empty. Not empty, I said softly. Just done, she paused. You really think it's over? Yes, I said. The story ended years ago. This is just the credits rolling. She didn't argue. Then close the book, Ethan. I already did, I whispered. The rest is just silence. The city outside glowed quietly, the same city that once watched me break now watching me stand tall. Ryan lost his pride. Emily lost her mask. And I lost my need for revenge. I wasn't their victim anymore. I was their mirror, and mirrors don't lie. The bell rang through the trading floor like thunder. Novatech had officially gone public. Applause erupted, champagne flowed, and flashbulbs painted the moment in gold. My name hit every headline before the market even closed. The comeback king. I stood at the glass window overlooking the crowd. Claire walked up beside me holding 2 cups of coffee. You should be celebrating, she said. I am, I said quietly. Just differently, she handed me the cup. You look more like a man at a funeral than at the biggest win of his career. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm burying something. Her brow furrowed. What? The part of me that needed to win to feel whole. She studied me for a long moment. You finally sound human again. Guess success does that, I murmured. She smirked. No, Ethan. Forgiveness does that. I looked at her. You ever think I'll actually get there? She shrugged. You already started. You just don't see it yet. Later that evening, the office was quiet. Everyone had gone home or out drinking. I sat at my desk staring at the city lights. My reflection in the window didn't look like a victor, just a man tired of carrying old ghosts. My phone buzzed. Claire again. Meet me downstairs, you need air. When I joined her outside, she was leaning on her car, sipping coffee. You ever think about forgiving them? She asked softly. I looked up at the night sky. Maybe, I said. But not for them, for me. Good, she said, because they don't deserve it. Maybe that's not the point. She smiled faintly. You're changing. I'm trying, I said. Doesn't mean it's easy. Nothing real ever is. We stood there in silence, the city humming around us. For once, I didn't feel the urge to prove anything. I'd already done that. The next morning, I drove out of the city. No meetings, no noise, just the hum of the road. The ring sat on the passenger seat, still in its small velvet box. I didn't call anyone, didn't plan the route. I just drove until I reached the old cemetery on the hill. The wind was sharp, carrying the scent of rain. I walked slowly between the stones until I found her name. Margaret Reed, my mother. Hey, Mom, I whispered. It's been a while. I knelt beside the grave, brushing off a few leaves. You'd laugh if you saw me now. The company's public. Reporters can't stop calling me the comeback king. I paused, smiling faintly. You'd hate that name. The silence pressed around me, peaceful and heavy. I thought revenge would fix everything, I said quietly. But all it did was remind me of what I lost. I opened the box and looked at the ring, the one that once meant forever. Remember this? You told me love doesn't end when people do stupid things. I didn't believe you then, my voice trembled. You were right, Mom. I did forgive him, just not the way you meant. I placed the ring gently at the base of the stone. I'm done carrying it. Done carrying them. The wind rustled the grass like she was answering. Maybe she was. On my way back, the horizon began to glow, that pale gold that comes right before sunrise. I rolled down the window, letting the cold air sting my face. For the first time in years, the world didn't feel like a battlefield. At a red light, my phone buzzed again. A message from Claire. You disappeared. Where'd you go? I typed back, home. Eventually, she sent a smile emoji. You sound lighter. I am, I replied. When I reached the city limits, I stopped by the small cafe where it had all begun. The place where I used to dream about building something, proving something. The barista didn't recognize me. That felt like peace. I ordered black coffee and sat by the window. A group of young entrepreneurs huddled nearby, whispering excitedly about investors, ideas, the future. I caught a few phrases: seed funding, beta launch, potential acquisition. I smiled. I remember that fire, I muttered. Claire called again. You sound weirdly nostalgic, she said when I answered. Just thinking about beginnings, I said. She laughed softly. You sure it's not the caffeine talking? Maybe it's everything finally making sense. What part? That revenge never ends anything. It just delays peace. She was quiet for a moment. So what now? I live, I said simply, without needing to win. About time, she murmured. You earned it. That night, I sat on my balcony looking out at the city lights. The noise below felt distant, like it belonged to another life. Claire joined me with a glass of wine. So, she said, how does it feel to be free? Strange, I admitted. Like I've been fighting a war I didn't realize was already over. And now? Now, I said, smiling, I get to choose peace. She clinked her glass against mine. To peace, then. To peace, I echoed. We drank in silence. The air was cool, the city alive, but I felt calm, truly calm, for the first time in years. You ever miss them? She asked after a while. Sometimes, I said honestly, but it's like missing a version of myself that doesn't exist anymore. She nodded. Closure looks good on you. Feels better, I said. We watched the horizon fade into twilight. For once, I didn't think about the past. I didn't replay betrayal or failure or loss. I just breathed. As the night deepened, Claire stood. You should write a book, she teased. How to turn pain into power, I laughed. Too dramatic. Maybe how to stop caring and start living. Bestseller material, she said, grinning. Maybe, I said, but I don't think I need to share the story anymore. It's done. She looked at me, her voice soft. So is he, the old Ethan. I leaned back in my chair, smiling at the stars. Yeah, he finally let go. When she left, I stayed outside, watching the city until the first streak of dawn touched the buildings. For once, I didn't feel victorious. I felt human. The sun rose, slow, golden, honest. And as the light touched my face, I realized something simple. Freedom doesn't come from revenge. It comes from release. I smiled, not because I'd won, but because I'd finally stopped fighting.